My name is Kinsley, and if you had told me a year ago that my husband would betray me with the woman who lived 2 doors down, I would have laughed in your face. We were the couple everyone envied. The smiles at brunch, the hand-holding at parties, the perfect marriage people posted about. But I've learned that the happiest photos hide the darkest truths. It started on an ordinary Tuesday. The sky was gray, the kind that makes everything feel heavier than it is. Hayden had left early for work, but his coffee mug was still half full on the counter, something he never did. That's when I noticed the faint trace of perfume lingering in the kitchen. Sweet. Floral. Not mine. I brushed it off at first. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe it was from the grocery store clerk who hugged me that morning. But the human heart knows when something isn't right, and mine was screaming. Later that afternoon, I drove Hayden's car to grab groceries. As I adjusted the seat, something metallic glinted under it. I reached down and pulled out a small gold earring, delicate, expensive, unmistakably feminine. My stomach turned cold. I didn't wear gold, and I definitely didn't own anything like that. I sat there for a long minute, staring at that tiny thing as if it could explain itself. But it didn't. It just sat in my palm, catching the sunlight and burning my faith alive. When Hayden got home, I asked him casually if anyone had borrowed his car. He didn't even blink. "No, why?" he said, shrugging, sipping his drink. "No reason," I murmured. That was the first lie, and it came from both of us. I spent that night scrolling through my phone, opening his social media, his emails, anything I could find. But Hayden was careful. Too careful. No messages, no photos, nothing. Then, as I stared out the window, I saw her, Millie, the neighbor with the honey blonde hair and the habit of leaning too close when she talked. She was outside watering her plants, wearing the same scent I'd smelled in my kitchen. Sweet. Floral. My throat tightened. I wanted to believe it was coincidence. I needed to, because the alternative would destroy everything I'd built. The next morning, I woke up before dawn, packed Hayden's lunch, and slipped the earring into the front pocket of his jacket. I wanted to see if he'd notice, or panic. When he came home that evening, I checked his jacket. The earring was gone. He didn't mention it, didn't say a word, just smiled, kissed my forehead, and asked, "Rough day?" I looked into his eyes and said, "Not yet." That night, I couldn't sleep. I stood by the window watching Millie's porch light flicker. Hayden's phone buzzed once, twice. He turned it over, face down. And in that moment, I knew, whatever was happening between them, it wasn't just lust. It was intention. I thought I'd cry, but I didn't. Instead, I opened my notes app and typed one line. "If you going to burn my world down, Hayden, I'll make sure you watch it happen." Because this time, I wouldn't be the broken wife. I'd be the woman who fights back, and the first move was already in play. It's funny how silence can scream louder than words. For days, Hayden and I barely spoke, the kind of polite, careful quiet that only two people hiding something can manage. He'd leave early, come home late, kiss my cheek instead of my lips. And I'd smile, pretending not to notice the guilt crawling behind his eyes. But inside, I was planning, watching, waiting. That Friday, I went to the backyard to water my plants, something I hadn't done since before the earring incident. From where I stood, I could see Millie's kitchen window. She was there, laughing on her phone, hair up, a glass of wine in hand. The glow from her screen reflected in her eyes, soft and golden. She looked happy. Too happy. My gut twisted. That night, Hayden was in the shower when his phone buzzed again. Once, twice, 3 times. I'd promised myself I'd never snoop, but promises mean nothing when your marriage starts to rot. I picked up the phone. No name, just a heart emoji beside the contact. The message read, "I miss the way you say my name when no one else around." My hand trembled. Another message came through seconds later. "Did she find the other earring yet?" My stomach flipped. Other earring. So there were two. Hayden stepped out of the shower, towel around his waist, smiling like nothing was wrong. I placed the phone back exactly where it was and forced a laugh. "I poured you a drink," I said, handing him his glass. That night, I didn't sleep again. Instead, I called Stetson, Hayden's oldest friend, and mine too, once upon a time. "Do you know who he's been seeing?" I asked. Silence. Then a sigh. "Kinsley, you don't want the answer." "I already know," I whispered. "I just need confirmation. It's Millie." The words hit me like a brick to the chest. He told me he had seen them together at a motel an hour away. Hayden S. car, parked outside, Millie's coat slung over the passenger seat. He'd kept quiet because he didn't want to get involved. I thanked him, hung up, and felt something inside me snap. The next morning I went to Millie's house. Her smile was sweet, her eyes full of fake concern. "Kinsley, you look pale. Everything okay?" I stared at her for a long moment. "Yeah," I said, smiling back. "Everything's perfect." Because that was the moment I decided to destroy them both. Not by yelling, not by crying, but by exposing them. The right way, the way they'd never see coming. That evening, while Hayden showered again, I mirrored his phone screen to my laptop using the cloud connection he once set up for me. Every message, every call, every photo, all appeared right in front of me. He wasn't just cheating, he was in love with her, and that's what made it worse. At 2 a.m., I finally saw it. A message thread titled, "Weekend Plan." "Hayden, she thinks I'm on a work trip. Millie, I'll book the cabin, just us. Hayden, can't wait to finally be free." Free. That word shattered something inside me. They were planning to be together, permanently. I sat there in the dark laptop screen reflecting off my tears and whispered to myself, "If you want to be free, Hayden, I'll set you free, but not the way you think." The thing about revenge is, it doesn't happen overnight. It grows quietly, in the corners of your chest where love used to live. By the time Hayden packed his overnight bag, my plan was already in motion. He told me he'd be attending a 2-day conference. I smiled, kissed his cheek, and even helped him fold his shirts. He looked so calm, so sure he'd gotten away with everything. But as he walked out the door, I caught a glimpse of his reflection in the hallway mirror. And for the first time, I didn't see my husband. I saw a stranger. The cabin was 2 hours north, hidden in the woods near a frozen lake. I knew the spot. We'd vacationed there once before everything rotted between us. It was quiet, private, and completely off-grid. Perfect for secrets. And for revenge. After he left, I waited 15 minutes, then grabbed my coat, my car keys, and the small black box I'd been keeping for days, a flash drive filled with screenshots, call logs, and pictures from his mirrored phone. Proof of every lie he ever told. I followed his route using the GPS history I'd pulled from his phone. And as the city lights faded behind me, a strange calm settled in. I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't even angry. I was focused. Halfway there, snow began to fall. Thick flakes spinning through my headlights like ghosts. When I reached the cabin, Hayden's car was parked outside. Inside, light flickered through the curtains. Laughter. I crept closer. The front door was cracked just enough for me to see. Millie was sitting on the couch in a silk robe, hair loose, her hand resting on Hayden's chest. My stomach tightened, but my face didn't move. I recorded them with my phone. A few seconds were enough. Then I turned and walked away, quietly. I didn't need confrontation. I needed impact. I drove back into town, straight to Stetson's place. He opened the door, startled. "Kinsley, what are you—" "I need your help," I interrupted, handing him the flash drive. "Tomorrow morning, every person on Hayden's client list will get this video. His boss, his friends, everyone. You just need to schedule the emails." He hesitated. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I looked him dead in the eye. He wanted to be free. I'm giving him freedom, just not the kind he expected. By morning, my plan was already in motion. When Hayden returned that evening, pretending to be exhausted from meetings, I played along. I even made him dinner. We talked like normal, like nothing had changed, until his phone started blowing up. Call after call, text after text. His expression drained of color. "Kinsley," he whispered. "What did you do?" I didn't answer. I just turned up the TV volume, and there it was. His face and Millie's splashed across the local news feed. Local accountant caught in affair scandal. Leaked footage surfaces online. He sank onto the couch, breathing hard. "You ruined me." I walked closer, bent down, and whispered, "No, Hayden. You ruined yourself." He didn't say another word. Just sat there, staring into nothing, the sound of his perfect life collapsing all around him. As for Millie, I heard she quit her job the next day, moved away. Her husband filed for divorce, but that wasn't enough. Not yet. Because Hayden still didn't yet know the worst part, the one secret that would crush whatever was left of him. I wasn't done. Not until he felt everything I'd felt. By the time the story broke, our quiet little neighborhood had turned into a gossip storm. People stared when I walked by, whispering behind coffee cups and car doors. Hayden stopped going to work altogether. Too many calls, too much shame. He tried to talk to me a few times, but every time he opened his mouth, I'd walk away. What could he say? Sorry? That word had expired the moment he chose her. But what he didn't yet know, what no one knew, was that my revenge hadn't yet started when I found that earring. It had started months earlier. I'd suspected him long before the proof appeared. The late nights, the whispered phone calls, the sudden business trips. I'd already hired a private investigator back then, and I'd just learn about Millie. I learned about money, hidden accounts, offshore transfers, a company under my name. Hayden wasn't just cheating, he was stealing. He'd been funneling money through fake invoices for nearly 2 years, and he used my signature to make it look clean. If I hadn't caught on, I would have gone to prison if the IRS ever looked too close. The night I found that earring, I realized everything fit together. The affair wasn't just lust, it was leverage. Millie worked for one of Hayden's clients. She wasn't just a mistress, she was his accomplice. So while everyone thought I was the heartbroken wife, I was quietly gathering documents, passwords, and bank statements. I had everything ready by the time I set up that flash drive. That video was just phase 1. Phase 2 was legal. That morning, I went to see Detective Stetson. Yes, Detective Stetson. My old friend wasn't just a friend. He was the officer who'd helped me when my mother passed years ago, and he owed me a favor. I slid a folder across his desk. Everything Hayden had done. "Are you sure you want to file this?" he asked quietly. I smiled. Absolutely. By evening, Hayden's accounts were frozen. The business he'd built on lies was gone overnight. I didn't even have to lift a finger after that. The law did it for me. When he came home that night, the fear in his eyes wasn't from guilt anymore. It was survival. "You turned me in," he hissed. "No," I said softly. "I just stopped covering for you." He grabbed my wrist, desperate, trembling. "You'll regret this, Kinsley." I smiled, pulling my hand free. I already did, for years. That night, he packed his things and left. Millie didn't open her door for him. She'd already flipped on him to save herself. The police came 2 days later. I watched from the porch as they led him away in handcuffs, snow swirling around his face. The neighbors watched too, the same ones who'd once envied us. And for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. But even then, there was one last thing I hadn't told anyone. Not Stetson, not the police, not even myself until that moment. The night Hayden first cheated, the first time he came home smelling of Millie's perfume, I had found out I was pregnant. I never told him, and I never will. Because sometimes revenge isn't about destruction, it's about silence. about taking back the power that was stolen from you, piece by piece, until the only sound left is your own heartbeat, steady and unbroken. I closed the curtains that night and whispered to myself, "You're free now, Kinsley. Truly free." The morning of Hayden's sentencing was strangely quiet. The whole town had been waiting for this. The man who once bragged about his perfect life now stood trial for fraud, embezzlement, and perjury. I didn't sit in the courtroom. I didn't need to. I'd already heard every lie he could ever tell. Instead, I stood outside with my coffee, staring at the courthouse steps, feeling nothing but calm. Stetson came out halfway through. He took a plea. He said, 3 years, maybe less with good behavior. I nodded. Let him have his good behavior. He'll need it. There was no victory in it. No triumph. Just a strange kind of stillness, like the silence after a storm has torn through everything and left the ground clean. When I went home, the house still smelled like him. His cologne lingered in the closet. His shoes still sat by the door. But for the first time, those things didn't haunt me. They reminded me of what I'd survived. That evening, I drove out to the lake, the one we used to visit before things went wrong. The sky was burning orange over the water, and the reflection looked like the world itself was on fire. I took off my wedding ring. The gold was cold against my skin. I threw it into the lake and watched the ripples fade. "Goodbye, Hayden," I whispered. Then I pulled out a small ultrasound photo from my purse, a secret I'd carried through the whole nightmare, a tiny heart beating on paper, my child, my future. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rebuilding. 6 months later, I opened my own consulting firm. I used the same business knowledge Hayden once tried to exploit, but this time every dollar was mine. Every success, earned, not stolen. People ask me sometimes if I'd ever forgive him. I'd just smile and say, forgiveness isn't something you give to someone who broke you. It's something you give to yourself when you're done carrying them. Stetson still checks in from time to time. He never asks about the baby. He just brings coffee, tells me the latest neighborhood gossip, and smiles that knowing smile that says he's proud of me. And Millie? She moved away. Last I heard, she changed her name. I don't hate her. I don't even think about her anymore. Because the truth is, Hayden was never stolen from me. He was revealed. The worst part of loving someone who lies isn't losing them. It's realizing they were never really yours in the first place. That night, as rain fell softly against my windows, I sat by the fire holding my baby boy. His little fingers curled around mine. A quiet promise of a new beginning. No cameras, no crowd, no drama. Just me, him, and the steady rhythm of life moving forward. I whispered against his tiny ear, "You'll never have to unlearn love the way I did." And for the first time in years, I smiled, not because I'd won, but because I was finally free.